All right, so today we're talking about segments, and a line segment, okay, is a measurable piece of a line with two endpoints. Okay? So what that looks like is if I have this, A and B, okay, it has 2 points, no arrows. So if I'm naming it, I just put a line above letters A, B. Congruent segments are line segments with the same length. Okay, so line segments with the same length. On the congruency marking, when I say like two line segments are congruent, A, B, and C, D, is this equal to with the little squiggle above it? That means congruency. Okay. So when we measure line segments, the measurement of those segments is the distance between 2 points, right? A and B in this case. We can write it as the length of A and B. Or we can just write it with AB. Notice that when you don't see any symbols above the two letters, that means they want a number. They want a length. In this case, the length would be 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay? Just like that, if the two lengths of A and B and C and D are equal to each other, that means that these segments are congruent. And again, remember, we can write that as AB is congruent to CD. So just like above here, this one is 4, this one is 4, therefore they're congruent. The segment addition postulate is if I have 3 collinear points and then 1 point falls in between. And what happens is it breaks it up into sections. So I have this section here, which I'm going to label as section 1. I have this section here, which is broken up into section 2. And together they form section 3. Okay. So the way I explain it is if we're going to do segment 1 plus segment 2, that's going to equal segment 3. But in geometry, we don't like to use those numbers, so we say the segments themselves. So the measure of segment AB plus the measure of segment BC should equal the length of AC. That's how we look at it in these cases. Okay, so let's go ahead and show some examples here. Okay. So again, if you do it by my method, where you got the 1, you got the 2, and you got the whole thing to be 3. Okay. So again, 1 plus 2 is going to equal 3. So if I look at this, the length of segment 1 is 8x minus 17. Plus the length of segment 2, which is 5x minus 3. That's going to equal the length of segment 3. Well, the length of segment 3 is from E all the way to G. They tell us up here that EG is 71, so that means that the length is 71 units. So now it's just an equation. Let's go ahead and solve it. Again, we're going to combine our like terms. 8x plus 5x, which are on the same side, will give me 13x. Negative 17 minus 3 gives me negative 20. And that's going to equal 71. I'm going to add 20 to both sides. So 13x, I'm going to come over here. 13x equals 91. So x, when we divide by 13, x is going to equal 7. Okay, once we get x, double check the question, and that's what it's asking for. It says find the value of x. We did that, so x is 7. Okay, same thing on example 2. You got segment 1, you got segment 2, and you got the whole thing to be segment 3. So again, 1 plus 2 is equal to 3. Okay, so the length of segment 1 is 27. The length of segment 2 is 3x minus 1. the length of the whole thing of segment 3, all the way from J all the way to L. Well, they tell me JL up here is 5x plus 2. Okay, so we're going to just go ahead and solve. Okay, again, combine your like terms. 27 and negative 1 here gives you 26. Subtract 3x. Subtract 3x. 26 is equal to 2x plus 2. Subtract 2. Subtract 2. So 24 is equal to 2x. So x is equal to 12. Okay, once we get that, we got to double check the question. Now the question in this case says to find the length of JL, which means I have to go up here where it says JL, and they say JL is 5x plus 2, and I have to substitute 12 in for x. So it's 5 times 12 plus 2. So 60 plus 2, which is 62 units. And that is the length of this segment. Okay. Down here on the bottom. Okay, let's go ahead and label it again. You got segment 1, you got segment 2, you got the whole thing. So segment 1 plus segment 2 is equal to segment 3. Okay, so we got to figure out. So from segment 1 goes from S to K. So we have to find SK, which they tell me up here is 13x minus 5. Plus segment 2 is from K to Y, which they tell me is 2x plus 9. Equals the length of segment 3, which is from S all the way to Y, which they tell me is 36 minus x. Okay, so combine your like terms again. So I'm going to combine my 13x with my 2x, so we get 15x. I'm going to combine my negative 5 and my 9, which gives me positive 4. It's going to equal 36 minus x. Okay, we're going to add this x over. It gives 16x plus 4 equals 36. Subtract 4 from both sides. Which is 16x equals 32. And divide by 16. So we get that x is equal to 2. Okay, well the question asks for a bunch of stuff. So we do find that we need x, so x is equal to 2. We also need to find xk, so sk again is 13x minus 5. So plug in 2, because that's what x is. 13 times 2 is 26, and 26 minus 5 is equal to 6, 21. So sk is 21. Ky is equal to 2 times x plus 9. So 2 times 2 plus 9 gives me 4 plus 9, which is 13. And then sy is equal to 36 minus x, so 36 minus 2, which gives you 34. And another way to double check yourself, the two smaller ones, so 21 plus 13 should equal 34, and it does. Okay, a midpoint. So the midpoint of a segment is a point that divides the segment into two congruent segments. Okay, if you notice here on AC, how you see these two tick marks, that tells me that AB is congruent to BC. So B is the midpoint of line segment AC because of those two markings. Okay, then you see this line that comes through the middle here. When you have a line right or segment that intersects another segment at its midpoint, it is said to bisect the segment or split it into two equal parts. Okay, this is called a segment bisector. Okay. So in this case, line L is a segment bisector of line segment AC. Okay. Let's go down to some examples. So they tell me here that Q is the midpoint of PR. As soon as they tell me that something is a midpoint, that means that the two segments are congruent. Okay? When the two segments are congruent, that means that these two are equal to each other. So 7x minus 16 equals 4x plus 2. So I'm going to subtract 4x. So I get 3x minus 16 equals 2. Add 16 to both sides. So 3x equals 18. So x is equal to 6. Double check to make sure what you're asked to find. And in this case, they tell me I have to find the value of x. So I've done that. I am done. Okay, again, same thing. They tell me that h is a midpoint of GI. So if that's the case, that means that this is congruent to this, which means that they're two equal each other. Okay, so solve for x. 2 is equal to 4x minus 10. Add 10 to both sides. So 12 is equal to 4x. So x is equal to 3. Okay, again, double check what they're asking you to find. In this case, I'm to find GH. So we need to figure out where GH is located. G to H is this segment right here. So I need to use that. So 5x plus 2. We know x is 3. The length is 17.